So, if you haven't heard, I have a newborn, 1 week old little boy, and I have a 2-year-old also. Yeah. I tell you that because if anybody's going to fall asleep during this message, it's going to be me, okay? Because I haven't slept more than 2 hours at a time in over a week. So, yeah, you know what it's like if you're a parent. Being a parent is such a joy, and it's also a lot of work, right? It's both, but it's totally worth it. It's definitely a lot of work at times. I've noticed with my 2-year-old, there's two things, like she doesn't want to go to sleep when she's tired, and she doesn't want to eat when she's hungry. For some reason, those are the two things. It's like, get in bed, no, you're tired, but doesn't want to eat, no. Even the things that she wants to eat, she won't eat. I don't know if you've experienced that as a parent. When I remember very specifically when she was 1 year old, her first birthday, we bought her a cake. She had never had cake before because we were going to be like super good parents and make her eat healthy her whole life. And she get cake on her birthday. Well, that went out the window. Now every time she's upset, we're like, here's a piece of chocolate. Just calm down. But so we bought, we bought her a nothing bundt cake. Those are delicious if you've never had one. So we bought nothing bundt cakes for her first birthday, got her a little cupcake, and we set it down in front of her. And we were like, this is going to be the greatest thing. And she was, I was like, and so, I was like, oh, you're going to really like it. And here you're reasoning with a 1-year-old, right? This is going to be great. You're going to really, and this, nope, she wouldn't. I tried the airplane, with it. Nope. I tried all the every trick I knew, and nothing would work. So being the caring, loving dad that I am, I picked a piece of it off and shoved it into her mouth as she fought and fussed and cried. And I got it in there, and as soon as that sugar hit her tongue, everything changed. She went, just both hands into the cupcake. It was amazing. Now, why as a parent would I force her to do that? It's not even healthy. I just forced her to eat that even though she didn't want to. Why would I do that? Because I had experienced those cupcakes, and I wanted my little one to experience that cupcake. I knew she would love it if she would just do that. And we all do that about stuff. When we experience something that is good, that we love, we share it with other people. You go to a good restaurant and it is like amazing. You go to work the next day, you're like, oh, I've got to try this place. It has the best fajitas I've ever had. You got to go. You tell people when you like something. You like a movie. You're telling people your favorite movie. Every time I'm hanging out with somebody, it seems like nowadays, we're in the middle of a conversation, and they go, oh, you have to see this video, right? And then they get out their phone, and they're like, I know we're talking, but watch my video. It's so funny. You're going to love it. Watch it. Yeah, it's great, yeah. Mm-hmm. But they want to share, they want you to share in that fun experience, or everything we do is we share it online now. You take a picture and put it on. You go on vacation, you take a picture. You want to share the good things that you've experienced, that you go through with other people. I get to take the teenagers to do stuff some, and every now and then we go to Six Flags. It's been a while, and every time we go, there's a group of people, the kids that just love Six Flags and the rides, and then there's a couple kids that are scared. Some of you were maybe the scared one. And the ones that love it are always trying to convince the ones that are scared to ride. And they will do anything. They will use the peer pressure tactics that, come on, man, what, you're going to be lame? Come on. And they'll use bribery. I'll give you this or this. I've actually seen girls flirt to get guys to ride. Come on, just ride. And that actually usually works. She's like, I'm scared of death, but she smiled at me. I will do it. Now, why do they want to convince their friends to ride? Because they want to experience that fun with their friends. They want them to know what they're experiencing. They know if they'll just do it, they'll love it. They want to experience that together. But I think we have something worth sharing that is better than a roller coaster, better than a great fajita or whatever. It's great and it's worth sharing, and that is that God has done great things in our lives. That He has done something. Let me ask you, has God done something good in your life? If you have, say yes. Yes. Has He healed you of something? If He has, say yes. Has He helped you through a hard time? Yes. I see some very exuberant faces. Yes. Let me ask you, do you love your church? Yes. You better say that one, yes, right? Yeah. God has done good things. You have great things in this church. You've experienced good things from Him. Why would we not want to share that with others? We want to share our favorite movie. Let's share the goodness of God in our life. In fact, I believe the people around you need what we have to share, and we need to share it with them. And so I want to talk about sharing what God has done in you and in us with others. And I think that it's a pivotal part of what it means to be a Christian, to share what God has done in you. And I know Culture wants us to just be quiet about it. Hey, y'all need to just keep your Christian stuff to yourself and let us do your own thing. Now, they're not going to be quiet about their business, but we're going to share. We need to share the truth. We need to share what he's done. And so I want to talk about it. And it is, like I said, it's pivotal to being a Christian. It's not like a side thing that we share our faith. In fact, when Jesus called his disciples, let me show you how it started. In Matthew chapter 4, verse 18, it says, as Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee, he saw two brothers, Simon called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. So these guys, this is what they did for a living. They fished. Some of you that think that would be awesome, right, to fish for a living. But yeah, they were fishermen. Now, they had met Jesus before, by the way. If you read another gospel, they'd met him before. But here he comes. He sees them fishing, and then this is what he says. Come, follow me, Jesus said. This is the call for them to be his disciple. If you are a Christian, you have answered this call to follow Christ, to go after him with your life. That is the call that you have answered if you are a disciple of Jesus. He says, come, follow me. And then he says this, and I will make you fishers of men. The first thing he said, come follow me, and I will make you a fisher of men. It was the very first. Now, that's kind of maybe a weird phrase, fisher of men. I think he's relating to them because they were fishermen. When I was little, especially, I loved to fish. And there was a pond out at my grandparents', and we go fishing. And one time I was fishing with my little sister, and she's not little anymore, but she was little then. And I was back off the water, kind of getting a lure ready, like just tying on a new one. And she was up next to the water, and she had one of these kind of things on there with like the hooks that hang down, you know what I'm talking about if you've been fishing. And she goes like this, whoo, and that lure goes, what, up in the air? It goes, sunk, right on my head. And then she goes, ah! Okay, she was a fisher of men, right? Not what Jesus meant when he said that. He's talking about that they were going to share their faith. In fact, when you look in Acts, he says, you're going to be my witnesses. You're going to go out and you're going to catch people. You're going to share what you've seen. You're going to share what you've heard. It was the first thing he said they were going to do. And it was the last thing he told them to do. If you go to Matthew chapter 28, he says, therefore go and make disciples. It's what we were called to do. He says, hey, I'm going to make you fishers of men. They go through their time, they become disciples, and then he says, hey, now go make some disciples. It's pivotal to what we do as Christians, to make disciples. It is, and it's also, you realize it's essential to be other people's life. They need it. They need it. How will they know if they don't hear it from you? They need this. Now, when I used to hear messages as a kid about, hey, you need to go witness. That's why we always said it. You need to go witness. I always kind of cringed. I don't know if you do, as I'm already talking about, because I just had these weird images in my mind of going to school or going to work, and like there's some people talking, and they're like, hey, what are y'all talking about? Oh, we're talking about the game on Sunday. Oh, yeah. Did you know I went to church on Sunday, and so should you? I mean, it's always some weird, like, awkward thing, or you picture the guy standing on the side of the road, turn or burn signs and stuff like that, and it just, the people that are weird and you don't want to be weird, by the way, if you're not weird, your witnessing won't be weird. If you're weird, it probably will be, and I can't help that in this message. But if you're not weird, your witnessing is not going to be weird. But I always just pictured it being weird, and it felt uncomfortable and something I didn't want to do. But I'm going to try and make it easier for you today. But even if it is uncomfortable and is weird, you need to do it. And I'll show you why. Paul said this in Romans chapter 10. He said, everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. Everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. If you call on him, you will be saved. There are people, though, that are not going to call on him, and they're not going to be saved. Let's keep going. He says, but how can they call on him to save them unless they believe in him? Well, that makes sense. Yeah, you got to believe in him to be saved. I understand that. He keeps going. And he says, and how can they believe in him if they've never heard about him? Well, yeah, Paul, that makes sense. I mean, they have to hear to believe, and then they can call on him and they can be saved. That makes sense. I understand. Next verse. And how can they hear about him unless someone tells them? Unless someone tells, how can they hear? They can't believe unless they're told. Look at the person next to you and say, you're someone. You are. You're someone, okay? You're the someone he's talking about. We have to go and tell. We have to tell. It is, if not, they're not going to know, and they're not going to believe, and they can't receive what he has for them. And one more thing. You realize how important this is to our Heavenly Father? Do you know how he cares about people that are lost? Jesus told 3 parables in Luke 15. I'm not going to read them to you. If you want to read them, they're really great, that explain how he feels about people who are away from him. The first one was about a sheep that's lost. He has 100 sheep, one goes away. And what does he do? He goes and looks for one. Maybe we don't relate to that very much. Have you ever had your dog get out of the house and get lost? I remember mine got out one time and we couldn't find her. We got in the car, we're driving around the neighborhood, calling for her. We got to find her. We'll just watch TV and see if she comes back. No, we went and looked. I mean, you see signs when people lose their dog. Then he tells when he says a woman lost a coin, right? She has 10 coins, loses one. Maybe more relatable is, have you ever lost your wallet somewhere? I was at the mall one time and I lost my wallet and I realized I didn't have it and shopping stopped, okay? The only thing that mattered at that moment was finding my wallet, and I went to every store until I found, and once I found it, I wanted to have a little party, okay? Which also he talks about in here, when the lost person comes to him, there's a party that goes on. And the third one was a lost son who went away. And when he came back, the father ran to greet him. And so if you think about it, see, the father, when he looks at lost people, he looks at the people that are at your job, that are in your community, that you know, that don't know him. It's like he lost something precious and he wants them back. Will you help him find them? That's my question. Will you help the father find them? Will you help them come back? And so we want to do that. We want to be fishers of men. I believe that you want to do that. And so I want to help you. I'm going to give you some really practical ways to be a fisher of men, to go after, invite, to reach people for him. Here's the first thing. Put bait on your hook. I'm going to use the fishing analogy. Put bait on your hook, okay? Can you imagine somebody going fishing with just a bare hook? They just put that on there and they just throw it in. Now, if they're really hungry, you might catch one, but most likely you're not going to catch very much with just a bare hook. No, you got to get something. You know, some people, they get like the stinky bait and all that or whatever, but you got to get something, okay? Even if it's a rubber or something, and put it on your hook. So what is your hook? What is the bait? The bait is any story about what God has done in your life. Anything that God has done in your life is your bait. So has God done anything for you? What has he done for you? If he's done anything for you, you need to share that with the people around you. You need to prepare that. You need to get ready and know that you can tell people what that is. So if God has healed you of something, you need to be ready to share that with somebody. If he set you free from depression or from an addiction, that is something you need to share with people. Now, with the teenagers one time, we actually had them write out their stories. We call them your Jesus stories. But we wrote them out. So we would write down, you could write down, I was sick. And I was, and whatever your thing was. And then Jesus. And now I am this. And here's the thing about that. When you share your story, it's very impactful for people. If you come up to somebody, I'm going to pick Wade sitting right here. See, Wade last year was healed from migraines. He was taking like 5 medications a day. He was having them every week, all the time. Doctor said he'd have them the rest of his life. In one moment in a worship service, they went away and he hasn't had one since. He hasn't taken any medicine, none of that again. Now, that's a story. And he needs to share that story. And you have a story. So if I was him, my story would be, I would tell him, hey, if somebody has a headache, I'd be like, oh man, I used to get migraines every single week. They were all the time. I was taking all these medications, and then the most amazing thing happened. What happened? Everyone's going to ask what happened. Then you can say, I was in a worship service, and I felt the power of God, and I've never had a migraine since. Now, you think, what if they ask me something I don't know the answer to? What if they say, well, what about the dinosaurs? I mean, what about the dinosaurs? How can there be a Bible, dinosaurs? Well, I don't know. I know I had a headache every day. He healed me in a worship service. This is what I know. I don't know the answer to, why this happened in the world, why this bad thing. I do know that I was suffering with depression and now I'm not. I do know that my marriage was falling apart. We got plugged into a church and now we love each other more than we ever have. I do know, you see what I'm saying? You have your story. That can't be argued with, your story. And it is powerful. And people, when they hear your story, it's going to touch their life. You have a story. If you are saved, God has done something for you. And so you need to think it through. I used to think I didn't have a good story because I would hear other people's stories and I was like, theirs is so good, like, or, so powerful sounding. Like one guy says, he was addicted to drugs. He was just down and all this. And then the Lord set him free and he was immediately set free from all that. And like, how powerful is that to share? And I was like, addicted? I was addicted to Dr. Pepper. Like, what kind of a story is that, But you know what? He has done great things in my life. And I had to think through and be ready to share those things. And I want to encourage you to be ready to share those things with the people around you. If you have to, write it down. Take some time, think through, and be ready to share so that you can just, in that moment, share it with somebody. You've got to have some bait to put on your hook. Here's the next one. Put your hook in the water. You can just picture, right, some fisherman he gets everything ready, got all the bait and everything, and he just goes down to the water and just kind of, man, that looks like, I can actually see him swimming and walking around. And he goes home. Did you catch anything? Nope. Well, you didn't put your hook in the water. Of course you didn't catch anything. You have a story, and you need to tell it. You need to share it. You need to put it out there because God's done something in your life. And if you don't ever share it with people, it's never going to impact their life. So we need to start sharing our stories. We need to start telling people what God has done. It's actually sad to me that God has done such great things in our lives and we won't tell people about it. We'll tell them about a great dinner we had, but we won't tell them when God healed us, when God changed our life. Let's start putting that hook in the water. And you may feel inadequate. You may feel like you're not capable of sharing Christ with people, but you are capable of sharing what he did in you. I heard this story about a guy who he was addicted to drugs, and his life got so bad he decided to commit suicide. And while he was attempting suicide, he gave his life to Jesus, and everything changed. So he actually was so on drugs, he decided to kill himself by putting his head in an oven. And it was an electric oven, so I'm not sure how that would work. But so he said while his head was in the oven, he started to think about some things he had heard about Jesus. And right then, got saved, gave his life to Jesus. He said when he did it, he was immediately set free from his addiction to drugs. And he was so excited, he's so excited about what happened. He went and found one of his friends, went to his friend's house who he'd been regularly did drugs with, and told him, he said, I got saved and I'm no longer addicted. My life is totally changed. And his friend goes, well, can I do that? I want to be saved. Now, he had no idea how to witness to somebody. He had no idea how to get him saved. So he walked over in the kitchen, opened the oven. He said, well, put your head in here. Put his head in. The guy gave his life to Jesus. Now, that guy is now a pastor, the first one. And he doesn't do it that way anymore. Although that would be interesting, having ovens down the front here. At the end of the service, we come down, we take real commitment. We don't preheat. Okay, that would be good. He didn't know anything. He could share his faith. All you have to know is what God has done for you. Now, yeah, it helps if you if you study and you learn Scripture and you know what God has done and is doing in this world. But you have enough to begin. You have to start putting it in the water, and you've got to do it over and over and over and over and over. Well, I invited them that time. They never came. Oh, I said something. Nothing happened. I was talking to Becca this week about how she started coming, and she told me that she was invited for about a year before she came. Over and over and over, somebody said, would you come to church? No. Will you come to church? No. Just kept putting that hook out there and just kept saying no. For whatever reason, didn't want to. Finally decided to come. And I asked her, she said before she came, she did not have a relationship with God. And I can tell you now, she's one of the most on-fire Christians I know, okay? She's on our leadership team, does all kinds of amazing things. And it took somebody saying over and over for a year. We give up after one time. And then I was thinking about this. Her mom organizes our nursery and preschool. I can't even imagine our church without her mom as a part. And it happened because a teenager kept saying, would you come to church with me this week? Would you come to church with me? And wouldn't give up. Why are you giving up? Don't give up. Keep putting your hook in the water. Keep on asking, and it will make a difference. Here's another one. When they're hungry, fish. When they're hungry, fish. Now, if you've ever been fishing, you know there's sometimes when it's really good and sometimes when it's really bad. I remember my grandparents, they had a pond, and there are times you could go out there and you could fish for 2 hours and either catch one or none. Okay, they're not biting today. And then there was one time I remember I was in the living room playing Super Nintendo, right? Because that's what we had back then. And on the game I rented from Blockbuster, if you remember those. And so I'm playing, and my dad comes in from the pond and goes, "They are biting really good. You need to go." And so I got my fishing pole and I went down, and you could catch them basically every cast. I mean, it was just every time you catch, there comes another fish, because they were hungry. They were ready. Now, there are times when people are extra hungry. When they are ready, they may not even know why they're hungry, but they are. And so I want to give you a couple things to remember, to know, to recognize when somebody's hungry. Now, I think you should put the hook in the water anyways, but at these times, there needs to be like alarms going off in your head. I'm going to show you 3 knots. 3 knots, 3 things that you're going to hear people say that this will let you know that they are hungry and ready for you to reach out to them. They will say one of these 3 things: not in church, not going well, and I do not know what to do. Not in church, things are not going well, I do not know what to do. So maybe you're talking and you hear somebody at work, you say, "Oh yeah, man, I haven't gone to church in a long time." Or you're talking to someone, "Man, it is just not going well at home right now." Or this situation, it's just not going well. We were not prepared for this. We do not know what to do. You are talking to a person who is hungry. There is something in their life, and they feel that it's missing. They know that something's wrong, and guess what? You have the answer. So I have a key, a trick for you to use. When you hear one of these knots, this is what you're going to say. You ready? "Really? Well, you should come to my church this Sunday." I'm not joking. In fact, let's say this together. Ready? Say it with me. Ready? "Really? Well, you should come to my church this Sunday." One more time. I want you to make sure you remember. Okay, ready? "Really? Exactly. Now, so this is how it works. You're there, and somebody at work says, "Hey, what'd you do tomorrow?" They say, "What'd you do yesterday?" "Oh, well, we went to church in the morning, and then we did and we did this." And they say, "Oh, yeah, I haven't been to church in a while." "Really? Well, you should come to my church this Sunday." It's that simple, and it's easy, it's natural, that's what you do. So your friend comes and they're talking to you, and they say, "Man, things are really crazy in my house. We're just not getting along. It's not going well." No, don't overdo that, okay? But here's what you get to. You say, "Oh, man, that sounds really rough. When I've gone through some struggles, when I was at church, I found help. I found peace. You should come with me this Sunday." You put that invitation out there. And it's not forcing your religion down their throat, okay? And I don't think a friend is going to take it that way because they're your friend. And so just be willing to listen to these things. They don't know what to do. They're going through some situation in their life, and I can't decide. And you say, "You know what? When I've had to make decisions, the Lord has helped me. You should come to my church this Sunday." Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to put that out there. It's not weird. It's not weird unless you're weird, and you're not weird, so it's not going to be weird. Just ask people. Put it out there, and you will be surprised, I think, at how many people receive that. Our youth group, people always ask, "Well, how come y'all have so many kids?" I think we're going to have 95 people going to camp, okay, this summer. And so how do we have that many? We've been doing this for like 3 years. Y'all have known this. We say this Sunday or this Wednesday because our Wednesday night service. And it works. We ask people and they come, and we have so many. And so what we need you to do it. Invite some people. Now, there are certain times when it is extra easy to invite. And like he said a minute ago, Easter is in 2 weeks. In fact, you don't even have to wait to hear this right now. You can just go up to someone and say, "Hey, are you going to church anywhere on Easter?" And if they say no, "Really? Well, you should go to my church this Easter," okay? And just invite them. In fact, we have cards in your bulletin that you can hand to them. Say, "Here's my church. It's got all the information. I'm going to the 9 o'clock service. I would love for you to be there." And you tell them when you're going to be, and you better come, okay, if you invite somebody. Because we had that happen in the youth one time. This girl walked into the youth hall, and she was new. She was looking around like this, and I could see she was lost or confused and said, "Hey, who are you looking for?" "My friend invited me." Friend didn't show up. That was so awkward. So make sure you're here if you invite them. But, invite some people and tell them, and they're going to come. And this is an easy time. It's just Easter. People think, "Oh, yeah, I should probably go. It's Easter." And now I hope that you won't let it in there. Invite them again. Say, "Hey, you should come back. Come be a part." But start there. It's an easy way to start. This can be and should be a regular part of our lives and what we do as believers. And how that we reach people. We should be looking for people who are lost and hurting. is so amazing to me is that you get to be a part of somebody's story if you do this. That there is somebody who is lost, somebody that is hurting, and if you talk to them, if you invite them, if you share with them, and their life has changed, then you're a permanent part of their story. They're gonna when they get saved or they turn their life around, their marriage gets healed. They'll be like, you know what? It was you who invited me, and my life changed. Now that's a pretty cool thing. I mean, can you imagine you invite a young couple who has a couple little kids, and they give their life to Christ and their marriage is saved, and not only that, they now have a relationship with God, and so now their kids are going to be raised in a church, and their kids get to grow up knowing Jesus, and instead of going through the world's ways and then maybe getting saved sometime later after they've made a lot of mistakes, they get to know Christ their entire life. Why? Because you invited their parents and they got saved, and and it changes generations. I mean, I know that there was some girl at a football game that invited my dad to church. What if she didn't do that? I mean, maybe somebody else would have. I don't know. But if she didn't invite him, I wouldn't be here. What would happen if we would just invite people? And you realize this also, there are people, they need you so much to invite. There's somebody that you know right now that they are hurting, and you have the answer. They are hurting. They feel alone in their life. They feel hurt. They feel broken. They feel depressed. They're stressed out all the time, and they don't know the comforter that you know. They don't know the God that you know. So let's share it with them. Let's tell them. Let's get past that uncomfortable moment, and let's share it with them. So today I want to pray, and I want us to pray together. And I don't know, maybe as we're talking about this, you don't know the comforter. As I've been talking about, being saved and knowing this one that's done these great things in our life, you're like, well, I don't know him. If you don't know him, then you can get to know him right now. He wants to know you, and if you call on him, you will begin to have one of those stories. If you're stressed out and your life is a mess and this is all going wrong and your body's hurting, you're going through this, I'm going to tell you what, in just a second, there's going to be people praying down here, and you need to come get your story that you're going to share. It's time to have that turnaround where you come and you give your life to him and you see what he does. And then you'll be able to go and share. If you don't have that relationship with him, in just a moment, I want to encourage you to come to somebody and just say, I need to have a relationship with Jesus. I want to make a change today. And they'll pray with you, and they'll help you through that. I believe that as I was talking about sharing, there may have been a few of you that a specific person came into your mind. It may not be everybody, but some of you may have thought of somebody at work, thought of somebody that you know that's a friend, and you thought, man, yeah, that person. I think that was the Holy Spirit that put them on your heart. So as we're praying, I want to ask you to pray for them. You can pray for them where you are, or you can come and ask a prayer partner to pray with you for them, to believe that their heart will be ready for when you go and share with them, when you go and share or invite and minister to them. So I want to encourage you to pray for that person. We're all going to be sharers. We're all going to be fishers of men. It's what we're called to do. We're going to end with a time of prayer, like I said, and if you need prayer for anything that's going on in your life, you can come forward. There'll be people that'll be glad to pray for you. Father, I thank you that you love us. I thank you that you've given us a story to tell, that you've done great things in our lives. I pray that we would have the courage to share it with others. I pray that we would see many lives changed. In Jesus' name.